Okay, welcome to another episode of the Rugby League Outside of Set of Six, our live news show where we cover the interesting stories, the good, the great and the new of Rugby League outside the Heartlands. My name's Craig.
And my name's Karl, and on this week's show we'll be talking about the Touch Rugby World Cup rolling into Nottingham, which was a huge success. We'll have a Southern Conference League roundup, and we'll also be talking about Great Britain potentially coming back.
All right, here we go for another week of Rugby League news and stories. So some good stories coming out this week and some interesting fixtures and results as well. So we'll talk about some of that, no doubt. But the first thing I kind of want to talk about is this idea that Great Britain may be making its return. Now, whether it's backed by popular demand, whether it's a last-ditch effort to get some interest in the international game, I don't know, but we're going to talk about it now. So, Karl.
Yeah, tackle one then. Rumours circulating amongst the press that Great Britain is looking to return for the Ashes tour in 2025. I'll jump straight in. Personally, I think it's a terrible idea. We had Great Britain was revived, wanted for 2019 under Wayne Bennett. The tour went down under and
went down.
Yeah, it was a huge disaster, not just on the field, but I don't think the brand resonates with people any longer. I think Great Britain has sort of had its day. I think Great Britain would work, GB, Team GB, whatever you want to call it, if we had a strong Ireland, Wales and Scotland. But we don't. We're essentially just rebadging England in a different kit. I mean, that's my opinion to jump straight in. I don't know how you feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big generalisation. We was talking, before we started recording about, what is the actual effect in terms of, like, which players would be out, which players would be in. We did a little bit of a sift through, and I don't think it'd change much. It might open up some of the, the NRL players and other overseas players a little bit, give them an opportunity if they've got Welsh, Scottish or Irish heritage. But again, it wouldn't change it a great deal. And it all boiled down for me. I was like, well, I prefer the Great Britain shirt to the England shirt. And that, you know what I mean? So, I don't know. Would it increase the viewership?
Yeah, but you're from a generation like me.
Easy.
Hang on. As I said, like me,
right.
that's grown up watching Great Britain, right?
Yeah,
I'll put this into context for you. My wife, who's been watching Rugby League 15 years...
Yeah. Hasn't got a clue.
Doesn't get Great Britain, doesn't understand it at all. It's, like, when the last Great Britain tour rolled around, she was like, so who's this then? I was like, it's Great Britain. She's going, but is it just England? I was like, well, yeah, it's just England in a different kit. And she's like, I don't get it. I was like, yeah, but the brand of Great Britain's like better. She's like, no, England's better. What? Surely playing international, you want to play for England. So there's a big... Newer fans just don't understand it, and if you are just dressing England up in a different kit, it's completely pointless. That's my strong opinion.
I think, just to play a little bit of devil's advocate, I think if the support, because we know, we people that are embedded, in, for example, in the Irish team, you know what I mean, and the Welsh team and that kind of thing, and they have got a severe lack of funding. The cost to get a player fully insured overseas to play a game is massive, and it's unworkable, and therefore to do it en masse for a whole team plus supporting staff, it just costs them out the game. Now, so if they had stronger support for those home nations, then I could see a stronger case for GB.
Yeah,
it's not there.
No, the Wales, Scotland, and Ireland. They can't afford to play. I'm led to believe that is the reason we don't see any international matches. That the cost is just ridiculous, insurance costs and everything else, absolutely insane. So, but yeah, I think if we're even talking about GB, we need to have a 10 to 15 year plan in place now. How we're going to ignite the home nations, make them a lot stronger, have some sort of proper tournaments, local 4 nations, 5 nations, however. Really build the other squads up before we even look at having GB.
So do you think this is a last-ditch effort to get interest in the international game?
I think it all boils down to Australia and how Australia view GB. I think it's all about selling the game down in Oz when we go down there for the Ashes is happening, isn't it? By all accounts, whether it's England or GB. So I think it's about raising the profile as much as they can in Australia, but there's other things to think about as well. Like who's going to coach it? Are you just going to have the England coach? Again, that makes it even more of a mockery of it. But then if you don't have the England coach, you're only a year away from a World Cup, where you've had a different coach coaching essentially what's going to be an England side. So it don't work on any level for me.
But on the same token, do you think that we just need to also make a decision and stick with it?
Yeah, well,
You know,
I thought that decision was made years ago when they decided that we weren't running with GB anymore and we were going with home, all the home nations. But like we said, the costs involved just aren't making that possible at the minute.
Yeah, it's a weird story. We'll keep an eye on it and see as it unfolds, and be really interested to get your take on it. Are you of an era where you remember, the Great Britain days, the Jonathan Davis try against Australia where he's flying down the wing, just iconic.
Jamie Peacock, Dustin, Willie Mason.
There's so many iconic moments in GB, in
history,
GB colours and GB history. Or are you relatively new in the generation? What's your thoughts on it? Be really keen to get your opinion because we're not entirely sold on it. Okay,
there's another point actually, which we haven't brought up. The women's Great Britain women's. It's not just going to be the men's. It's going to be the women's as well. There is a case to answer that might work better.
Yeah,
because we have a strong Welsh side at the minute. Could be potentially a couple of Ireland players might make it into that GB side. So in that respect, it's a little bit closer to working, I think.
Could you see that though? A split in an England men's side or home nations, split nations men's side, but a GB women's side. Could you see that?
I don't know.
That's a bit messy as well, isn't it?
It's too messy. I think it's got to be one or the other, hasn't it? And essentially, we've already announced the England v Gillaroos at Vegas, haven't we? So they've already announced that that's England. So I suppose you don't want to be flip-flopping from one to the other, do you? And it needs a proper structure. Like so many years of England, Ireland, Scotland and Wales, and then every 8-9 years we have a GB tour or something like that. That's my opinion anyway.
Yep, okay, so we're going to move on. Our next story then, Wigan Warriors, joint top of the Women's Super League. Karl, what's your take on this?
I think it's good news for the Women's Super League. St Helens and Leeds and York have sort of been the top three, haven't they? Wigan have just been outside of that top three for a couple of years. Wigan have been getting stronger, and it feels like now we've got a proper mix, top four strong mix. And actually, we're at the point now where it's quite difficult to call who's going to win the Women's Super League this year. It looks like York are falling away a little bit. They do play Saints next weekend. So they're the two teams that have got a game in hand. Wigan and Leeds currently top of the table with 14 points, and then you've got St Helens on 12 points. And
I thought St Helens not got 14, have they?
No, because they've got a game in hand.
Oh, right, got you.
So their game in hand is against York, which is coming up this weekend. So you're going to see a top three on joint points at the minute. I think it's great. Eva Hunter scored 2 tries for Wigan this week, and I think this takes us back a little bit to the Challenge Cup semi-final. Craig, we sat with Dennis Betts. You want to fill us in what he?
Yeah, but it was all about. He spoke a lot about like changing the identity of the team, and forming it into a top 4 team, and I think this is almost like a mark of. All right, we're there.
That's what I feel.
Pivotal moment in Women's Super League that, there is there's top competition there at the top of the league. So that was definitely his intention then, and I think it's coming to fruition now.
And I mean, we watched Wigan v St Helens, didn't we? The other week in the Women's Super League, and Wigan were actually the better team for large parts of that game. Jodie Cunningham try-saving tackle essentially saved that game for St Helens. So there's not much in it at all now. It's going to be incredibly close and exciting to see who comes out on top of the Women's Super League this year.
Yeah, again, we'll keep an eye on that story. Okay, moving on. So, There's been a World Cup running. You may or may not be aware of it. It has had a lot of spectators, a lot of participation, but it has flown under the radar of, the main sort of Super League, Rugby League fans out there. And that's the Touch Rugby World Cup.
Yeah, the Touch Rugby World Cup took place this week in Nottingham. 10,000 people there to watch the Touch Rugby. And yeah, like you say, this flew under our radar a little bit. It was only that I bumped into the Irish touch side and Matty Kennison, their coach, at the airport a couple of weeks ago, and he said, "Look, it's in Nottingham. The World Cup's coming in a couple of weeks." I was like, "Really?" Like I didn't know anything about it. I saw the footage this week. I was gutted that I couldn't get down to watch any of it. Actually, I saw the footage this week, and it looks incredible, absolutely incredible. I think you had 190 teams taking place from 40 nations.
That's brilliant, isn't it?
Absolutely incredible. It just looked amazing. It's like all these teams, and they're all different colours from nations from all over the world. Teams that I didn't really know played. I think that it crosses the boundary actually between rugby league and rugby union. So if I said to you Japan rugby league, you'd probably think that they had a team exist. Yeah, well in the
well we know because was it me that wore the Japan shirt or you?
Oh, it was you, wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah. So I just so interested to see how so many nations playing that I didn't think resonated with rugby league, and you got Japan and Philippines, and incredible. We've got a little bit of match footage as well.
Well, the stage is set here in Nottingham. The big dance, the Men's Open World Cup final. Australia taking on New Zealand. The Emus looking to defend their title from Malaysia in 2019. 9 straight world title championships dating back to 1988. It seems like an insurmountable task, but if there is one nation that can do it, it is New Zealand. Good afternoon from Nottingham. James Preston and England under-18s coach Joe Wright to bring you all the action. What an occasion, Joe. 10,000 fans packed into Highfield Sporting Complex.
And where else would you rather be?
Okay, lots of skill and speed on display there. You can see that there's snappy play. I think pinnacle of any sport is going to be incredible to watch, and you can see some real skill there. But definitely better touch players than you and I, Karl. Can you just...
Yeah, we've been playing it all wrong as well, mate.
Can you? What about the scores? What was the outcome of the?
So there were a number of tournaments, but the 3 main ones. You got the men's tournament. Australia came out 9 points to 6 against New Zealand in that one. Incredible game that was. They won the women's 6 points to 2, and they also won the mixed event as well, 8 points to 7. All 3 of those finals was Australia v New Zealand. So those 2 nations really, you won't have to watch it to see how they play the game. Incredible skill, and it was so fast. The 2 top nations. That's where everybody else has got to get to.
Well, fair play for having it on English soil and outside the heartlands as well. I know Nottingham are making a bit of a push to get more sports played in Nottingham.
Sports, yeah.
They've got lots of facilities and lots of benefits to it, so it's brilliant that it's in Nottingham and in the Midlands on our doorstep.
The coverage was brilliant as well. Live, it wasn't just a poor static camera or anything like that. It was properly filmed, commentary teams all weekend. You could just tune in on the Federation of International Touches where it was all broadcast. And if anyone plays touch rugby at a local club go tune in on that website, go and find the YouTube channel out, watch some of the footage, and you'll learn a lot from it. It was incredible.
Okay, so we've got a short interview now with Paul Cowan from Media Pack Sports Photography. He's got a finger on the pulse down there with everything SCL and rugby league around the capital and in the south as well. So thanks for joining us, Paul.
How are you doing?
Yeah, we're good, thanks. Okay, so first of all, if you can just give us like a brief summary of how the Southern Conference League is kind of is building to this big finish.
Yeah, well, it's been an exciting year for the amateur game in London. So firstly, you had London Scholars who dropped out of League One. So there was a lot of anticipation as to what they would be able to do. Unfortunately, they turned out to be one of the stories of the season. So through various reasons, they've been unable to field an away team this year and sort of have officially now dropped out. for this season. I think it's part of a rebuilding strategy for them. So moving out from the semi-pro, they lost a few players straight away. And then the first couple of rounds, they lost a few to some of the other teams, such as London Chargers and West Warriors, who are well established. And it's just unfortunate that coming away from League One and into the amateur game, it just needs another year or so of rebuilding. So they're a strong club, good junior grouping as well, so they'll be back in. But in terms of the season, you've got the two big heavyweights, which is the Hammersmith Hills Hoists and the West Warriors. And they were both known for their exploits in the Challenge Cup this year.
Yeah.
They did to meet in the third round, which was inevitable, and the Hoists just got through then, and they took a trip up to Halifax to play the Panthers in the fourth round, which was great exposure, not just for the team themselves, but for the state of the amateur game in London. I know that the northern lads that came down for rounds 1 and 2 were completely shocked. They were expecting a rollover, and they really got a fight handed to them. So those two are guaranteed into the playoffs. What is interesting is you've got a group of sort of 4 or 5 other teams who have been sort of there and thereabouts. So London Chargers and the Eastern Rhinos, who are based out of Colchester, they are most likely to fill the semi-final spots. The only potential that could happen there is Bristol All Golds. They're currently sitting on 8 points, and with 3 games in hand, if they win their 3 and Eastern Rhinos lose their 2 plus the forfeit they've got against Scholars, they'll end up on 14 apiece. But with the points differential going more the way of Bristol at the moment, it's still all to play for, so it's still coming through. But that'll be our top 4. We've also had the Bedford Tigers, who interestingly put in a bid to go for League One amongst a couple of other teams. They went really well the first sort of 3-4 games this season, but unfortunately injuries have plagued them. So we wish them well. But it's been a really exciting season, and we've got just one game coming up next week, and then sort of the big final precursor, if you will. So it's Wests versus Hammersmith. First game of the season was won by Hammersmith just by 4 points, 30-26. So we're expecting another tough game in what will inevitably be a dress rehearsal for the final.
Right. So Wests have lost the one game to Hammersmith. Hammersmith have drawn one game. Who did that draw come against?
That was the third place London Chargers.
Right. Okay.
So you've really got the three teams that are dominating the competition, really starting to sort of show their form. I mean, Hammersmith have got an exceptional defensive record. They've only led in 88 points this season. But then you've got Wests, who have been running riot and have stuck up 548 points. Correct. So it's a really different sort of clash of style. And it's an interesting game. I mean, they're mates off the field, but, being sort of Aussie and Kiwi based, very much intense rivalry on the field. But, it's a healthy situation, especially with Chargers and Rhinos, who had a streak of 4 wins. So a bit of a dodgy start to the season, 4 wins in a row. Unfortunately, they got brought down to earth with a bump around 2 back with a 76-0 shellacking from West Warriors, who were in no mood to show any mercy.
Ouch.
With the Southern Conference League and then the London Men's Premier, which sits underneath that, it's a relatively healthy situation for the amateur game. What we need to do in London is to see what the pathway is then to enable that to move into League One, now that you've got Scholars dropped out, and what the pathway is with what's happening with the Super League. So unfortunately the Broncos in the scenario the beginning of the year where it looks like they'll be back down to the championship, but it's still a relatively healthy situation. The juniors are doing well, and even like the women's game. I know the West Warriors have got a women's side in at the moment. The London Broncos ladies will be, contesting for the final in the Women's Southern Championship. So, apart from, dare I say, a bit more support from up north.
Yeah,
and it's a contentious point, and it's not just London. It is the South, and it is the Heartlands. Everyone's feeling a little bit of the strain, and I just really want this season to be done and dusted to understand what the playing field is going to be for the next few years. I know London is very much a target. We filled out the Emirates Stadium for the semi-final, England versus Samoa. And on the back of that, there's belief that there is an appetite. Unfortunately, it isn't translating at the local level. So we're not getting the crowds at the games. But the game itself is relatively healthy. And, there is enough volunteers. There's enough, support staff. We've got some fantastic referees and officials down here. So the game's in a good state. It just really needs that little bit of assistance that I think all of the non-major teams do. So it'd be really interesting to see if we can get that over the next year or two.
Paul, that was an incredible roundup of the season so far. If I were going to put you on the spot, I don't know if you've got an allegiance to either side. If I was going to say to you who are the favourites to lift the title in the SCL this year, which answer would you give me?
Oh, I'd have to say up the wires. I'm a Kiwi, and it has to be the West Warriors.
Right.
If only because it's a great rivalry with Hammersmith, and they really are games played at pace and with ferocity. So as a neutral and as someone delightfully who gets to capture this on the photos, I love it. I just want to see a great game. But I think Hammersmith picked it last year, so it's West Warriors for me this year.
Brilliant. Okay, Paul, that's been really insightful. I've really enjoyed listening to you and the summary of rugby league down there, not just the SCL. So thanks for taking the time to speak to us today. Where can people find some of your images?
Yeah, well, on Facebook, it's under Media Pack Sports Photography. On Instagram, it's at PAC_68. It's just it's a hobby. It's just something I do, but. There's no money at this level in any of this sort of stuff. But, I think most of us committed to league outside of sort of the Super League area do this for love of the game. Mm. And one of the reasons, it wasn't a league table for the Southern Conference League or wasn't being updated, frequently enough. I just built my own and started publishing this thing. Yeah. I've committed to try and get out to every one of the clubs this season just so they've got a decent set of photos for them. Yeah, there's a lot of love for the game. And I think that's what we need to keep remembering is that, week in, week out, there's some dedicated folks that get out there to help us keep putting on the game we love. And even podcasts like this, I love listening. I love hearing people talk about the game. So, keep up the good work. Well, thanks. And you're a great servant for the game. And personally, thanks for us for keeping your eye on rugby league down there. And, feel free to keep in touch. I'd love to keep your updates coming on the Southern Leagues. That'd be great. 100%. I'll give you an update once we get to the finals. Cheers, Paul. Paul Cowan then, giving us a roundup there of the Southern Conference League. Really in-depth insight. The guy's got his finger on the pulse. So thanks for doing that, Paul. And we hope to speak to you again as the as the finals kind of kick in there. What do you take from that, Karl? What I already knew, actually, that Hammersmith and West are the two trailblazers in that league at the minute. But it sounds like London Chargers and couple of other teams are hot on their heels, but I'm really looking forward to going down and watching some Conference League final this year. Can't wait for it. It's going to be incredible. Okay, so now we're moving on to a bit of news that we called actually at the start of the season. We kind of predicted this. We've got a few other things as well that we kind of predicted, and this one has come to fruition a little bit later than I thought, but it's definitely happening, and that is Sam Tomkins coming out of retirement to play for Catalans for the rest of the season. Got to be the biggest news of the rugby league year. I thought he'd really settled into his commentary and working with Sky Sports. Like I say, I didn't expect it to come this late on in the season. It's obviously been pushed from the Catalan Dragons losing 3 players out of their, well, not losing, they've sacked 3 players. Do you think that was the trigger? Well, we'll find out. We're sitting on the press conference tomorrow, so we'll get a bit more information on it. But I think so. I mean, Catalan, we've been saying it all year, haven't we? That although they've been good, they haven't been what they were last year. Yeah, missed a couple of organising players that were steering them around the park. He clearly feels that his knee and everything is in decent shape to come back. So yeah, let's see how Tomkins does. But what about expectations then, Karl? I mean, obviously he retired last year. What would your expectations of Sam Tomkins' performance be now? It's a hard one.
Well, do you put it this way then? Do you think the fans should expect good things for him, or just like solid performance?
Yeah,
Or are they willing? Do you think they're going to be willing to give him a bit of space to settle back in, or what?
I think if you're coming back into the team at this late stage of the season, you're pretty much laying a marker down that you want to be a grand final team, aren't you? You wouldn't come out of retirement just for a jolly up, would you? And I certainly wouldn't think Catalan would let him do that. So they've got to be thinking grand final.
Yeah, there's two occasions, isn't there? Either you're facing relegation,
yeah,
or you want to be pushing for a grand final.
Big push for grand final, because he's not going to come cheap either. That's one thing you got to say. Yeah, I think the fans will expect him to hit the ground running. There won't be any time for him to ease into the season. He's going to have to be full pelt, and he's going to have to have top performances from word go. Otherwise, he will stand out a little bit. He's been out of the game now for, I know it's only.
Well, he has been out of the game, but he's been embedded in the Catalan system.
Yeah, he has. Yes.
Yeah, he has a role there.
Yeah,
So he knows the players, he knows the shapes, systems, all that kind of stuff. And probably engineered a lot of that stuff, and now he's just lacing up his boots and cracking on. What effect do you think it'll have on the rest of the players there?
I think
the team.
I think it'll have a positive effect, because there's quite a lot of young players, young French players started coming through the Catalan system, and they have looked like they needed a bit of an organiser this year. I've said that a few times as we've been reviewing Catalans games. I think he will be a bit of a role model. I think probably somebody that they look up to. If he can help steer them around the pitch, yeah, I think it's a positive move for Catalan Dragons, providing he's as fit as he says he is.
So what do you think the chances are, or what do you think the odds are, of Sam Tomkins getting the player of the match in his next game, which I think is Hull FC? If he plays Hull FC at home, what do you think the chances of him getting a player of the match are?
Ooh, it's a difficult one to call that. I reckon it's probably quite high, actually.
I think it's high.
Yeah, I think he's going to want to. He's going to want to impress on his first game.
He's fresh.
Yeah, he's fresh. Yeah, he's certainly fresh.
All right, might not be match fit, but he's fresh, and I know he's got his long-term niggle in his knee and all that, but he's injury-free. He's fresh.
That's
he's
what
hungry.
He's saying. Yes, that's what he's saying. Yeah, I'd back him to get man of the match in his first game back. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, good luck, Sam Tomkins. Like Karl said, we're in the press conference with Catalan Dragons tomorrow, so hopefully we can bring you a bit of an exclusive tomorrow about the news over there. Right, we're going to move on to the Williams Weekly. Slightly different tack to what I've done in the past, but I just basically wanted to broach this idea of St Helens and the kind of like unrest from some of the fans. I've got to say it's some of the fans.
Yeah.
Of Paul Wellens' performance, right? Is he the man to take them to the grand final? They're definitely off the boil. We used to say never write off the Saints. That's not the case anymore. Like, you can get to a stage in a game and write them off. I know they had a couple of close games recently. There's some key players missing. We get that. There's some injuries. Every team's got injuries. But they're just not the Saints of old. And obviously, I know, supporting Leeds Rhinos, there's peaks and troughs. And sometimes those peaks can last years. You can have the golden generation. And the troughs can last a long time as well. Are Saints heading for a big trough? And would the introduction of a new coach change that? Would it right that?
Absolutely bonkers, in my opinion. I don't think Paul Wellens has got a problem at all. Well, yes, like you've just said, Saints have a bit of a trough. But they've got so many injuries, mate. You take those 8 players that are starting players out of any team in Super League, you're going to see a massive dip. The fact that St Helens, if they'd have won against Wigan the other week, would have been joint top of the table. Yeah. The fact that the fans are even contemplating that he should be released from his job is absolutely nuts, in my opinion.
We do have a bit of a. This is why I raised this.
The second in. Well, no, they've dropped a little bit, haven't they? But they were second in the Super League table. How on earth? I mean, this is like Keithley Cougars all over again. We're top at table. Let's sack as coach. Madness.
Well, I don't think that's not the noises that's coming out of the St Helens camp, is it? Like, I think they're pretty
No,
It's tied on. I think they're happy. It's more. It's like other fans, whether it's people just stirring it up or what. But it's we're very quick to sort of go right. Okay, they got these problems here, out, and fans do have a say. Personally, I don't think Ian Watson should have perhaps gone when he did. But I think, the club could feel the unrest with the fans, and then they had to do something about it. And before you know it, then he's out the door. And is it a case...
But I think that was different, wasn't it? I think there was a little bit of unrest in the Huddersfield camp.
Oh no, well, it's obvious. Yeah.
There certainly was. There was something not quite right. So that's completely different to Paul Wellens. Paul Wellens has been dealt a very tough card, mate. Like I say, he's got so many injuries in that squad. He's brought youngsters into the St Helens side that he's backed, who've played incredibly well. So he's got a lot of things right. How people are even contemplating that he should go is just madness, in my opinion.
But he's not at the top, is he? And this is the point. It's like their expectation that they should be winning, but
yeah. So like if you're top 4 side, it's like you're expected to be top of the league all year long and never lose just because you won X amount of trophies in X amount of years. Just madness.
So let's say we get through. Obviously, they're going to be in the playoffs.
Yeah, 100%.
But then they're out.
I'm going to make a call here.
Go on.
Saints are going to get a load of players back. They're going to make the playoffs. And I'll bet you they make the grand final.
How much you want to bet?
Not a betting man. Yorkshireman, mate.
Well, I mean, it's a strong shout. I mean, because you'd kind of think, well, Wigan, very strong contenders. Warrington, strong contenders. Saints, contenders, I'll say. Hull KR contenders. There's a lot of contenders.
I just
there.
have this feeling that they're going to come good when it matters.
Yeah,
that's what a mark of a champion team is. Everybody knows the season's long and you're going to have the ups and downs at some point in the season. Yeah, they have lost 4 in a row, which is unlike St Helens. It's been years since that's happened, but like I say, their injuries they've got a massive injury list at the minute. I just think I'm going to say it now on air. I think St Helens will be right up there come playoffs. They get a load of players back.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. And thinking about it, like there's no obvious unrest on the pitch, is there? Like when you were looking at Huddersfield, there was obviously players that weren't playing to the best of their ability. They weren't settled. There was unrest, and players in, players out, and it was just a bit messy. That kind of stuff's not going on at Saints, is there? There's no one jumping ship. There's no one underperforming, or
they're not losing games by huge scores either. There was nothing in the Warrington game this weekend. Okay, there is that case to say, well, Warrington were down to 11 men for part of that game. I think that was just incredible resilience from Warrington, if I'm being honest. They were right up there with Wigan the week before. There was not much in that at all. So, no, I think it's crazy.
Leave him alone.
Leave him alone. Stop bullying your own head coach.
Okay, yeah. So that's been our Williams Week this week. Hopefully you've enjoyed these 6 news stories. We've got plenty more coming throughout the week, so stay with us. And if you haven't subscribed already, then please do. It's the best way to let us know that we're on the right track and the stuff we're turning out is is what you want to hear. Karl, any closing remarks?
Just a massive thank you to everybody that's continued to support the show. We've just surpassed 150,000 views on YouTube, which is incredible. Just never in a million years thought we'd be doing a show that's got that number of views, but it has, and it keeps going up. And we've also got a great podcast this weekend with Troy Perkins, who's played all over. He's played for Balmain Tigers, Penrith Panthers. He was Australian schoolboy. He's played with loads of famous players. Michael Withers, played against Robbie Hunter-Paul in his day. He played at Catalan Dragons. Yes, he's got a massive story to tell. I don't think we're recording that this week. I don't think we're going to get it all into an hour. Stay tuned for that. That should drop on Thursday.
Yeah, and just as a bit of an indication of how the growth in the show, when we finished the first season of the podcast last year, we ticked over to like 20,000 views, and we were like chuffed to bits with that. To have the growth now, sort of midway through the
second season.
Midway through the second season, 100 and odd thousand views. It's incredible. So Thanks for supporting the show, and until the next show, take care.